What's up, Glads? Welcome back to Gladiators Tennis, and today we got something a little special for you. Today we'll be comparing two Wilson Blades 1820. One that you can, just go and buy in a shop or order online, and one that most of us are probably not going to be able to get our hands on, the Pro Stock version. But first, Arik, what are the Pro Stock rackets?
Alright guys, Pro Stock rackets. First of all, don't mind my beautiful hair with this wind. Not everybody's meant to be this gorgeous, alright? Anyway, Pro Stock rackets are the rackets that mainly all the Pro Tour level players use, alright? They might look like the normal rackets you can buy in your shops, but sometimes they have nothing to do with the rackets they resemble, okay? So, give me that maybe? Alright! Alright.
How's it feeling so far?
I became a pro, man. We deserve this. We should keep it for ourselves and play with it every day, man.
We only got it for one day, so
Okay, so we're gonna talk about the differences between these rackets, our experience on court with each one, and whether you should buy it or not. Roll the animation.
Alright guys, so first of all, let's talk about the differences between a commercial racket and a Pro Stock racket. So in this case, we have the current version of the Wilson Blade 1820, and this one kind of has the paint job of the previous, the V7, but as you might notice, it's glossy. And yeah, that's the way Wilson does it with their rackets. They paint the commercial rackets matte, and then they paint the Pro Stocks glossy. So if you look at all the Wilson players, all of them play with glossy rackets.
Yeah, I mean, I heard that the reason behind that is to get more feel. I'm not sure how much of science is behind that. We're not like Einstein, but I think it's not really scientific.
I don't think it's been proven, exactly.
Yeah. But maybe, I don't know, just letting that fact there.
Yeah, so looks-wise, they are, quite similar. Just not these two, but the V7 is pretty much the same racket, just not glossy. But under the paint job, they're pretty much different rackets completely.
Yeah, well, sometimes under the makeup, in some cases, it's not what you expect to see, sometimes that.
You're not talking about girls, right?
All right, now let's talk about like real differences. Let's start by introducing each racket, no? So they understand like which racket is what, let's say. Nice phrasing from my side. Okay, anyway, let's start from the stock rackets. Stock rackets are the rackets that are made like right now with the current mold manufacturers make them just to sell to the public. So those are the rackets that you have in the shops just to buy it. And the big brands always try to come up with new technologies, new stuff just to make these new models so they can sell more rackets to you. Because at the end of the day, they're like brands that want to get money, no?
Yeah, and basically all the technologies they implement, they mainly do it for commercial sort of purposes because they need something to base their, advertising campaigns on.
Yeah.
So if they say it's the same racket, just a different color, it's not gonna do. They have to say revolutionary technologies, things like this. And that's what they do with the stock rackets.
And we love, when companies say it's revolutionary and
we
try.
I mean, out of the revolutionary technologies, Auxetic has been pretty.
Yeah.
That one was, yeah.
All right. On the other hand, Pro Stock rackets are the rackets that are made with an old mold, like a mold that was sold like years ago. Pro players are used to, they like it, they played with it for a long time and stuff like that. And they take that mold, let's say of an old racket, and they make it perfect, let's say. They tune it the way that each player wants his racket to be, like balancing, exactly the way that the player likes his rackets, and Yeah, basically an old racket that is in perfect condition, spec'd up to a certain player's preference, if that makes sense. That should make sense because that's it.
Because it's nothing crazy, it's not magic or anything.
Yeah.
So that means that every Pro Stock Wilson racket, every Pro Stock Wilson Blade 1820 is going to be different. And in our case, we have the legendary H22 Wilson Blade, painted as a blade. That's been a little bit modified, so it's just like weighing just under 310 grams, and the original spec is 305. We decided to, we tried to find a spec that's not going to be too heavy so that it kind of makes sense to compare it to the commercial one, because if it's way too heavy, it's a completely different racket, it makes no sense. So yeah, it's just under 310 grams.
You're talking about small differences, but maybe I should mention that they're totally different rackets. Like,
yeah.
It's totally different rackets. So our experience, now we're going to talk about it, is a bit, it's going to illustrate that fact. Like, all right, you go.
I mean, they are different rackets, but in the end of the day, they're both 98 inches, the head, and they're both 1820. So they're both very control oriented. I do have to say that with the Pro Stock version, I did feel more stability and just overall better feel, I'm assuming that because it's just better tuned and it's heavier, it makes sense that it's more stable and it has better feel, better flow through and stuff like that. But honestly, I wouldn't say that the Wilson Blade 1820, the current one, the V8, I wouldn't say that switching to that one, I was like, oh no, like, I want to go back to this, like, this is unplayable. No, it was still decent. It was still really controlled and it was still very good feel and just a normal Wilson Blade. Just maybe not as precise.
I mean, yeah, well, first of all, I know that you want me to start talking about the Pro Stock. That's why I'm going to start with the other one, because I want to, yeah, let's start with the common racket so we see the difference. I mean, for my experience, this racket, first of all, it's a great racket, so I was already having fun during our play test because, like, the same what you're saying, like controlling this and that. So it's a great racket, and that's why it was hard for another racket for me to be like, wow, this is, much better, This doesn't lack anything. And that's what we're talking about right now, that this racket can be a bit better in some stuff, a bit maybe worse because it's not spec for you, and stuff like that. So yeah, my experience was that with this one I was feeling much more stable, like on the shots that I was like forced, forehands and stuff like that. I was just putting my hand in front of me and the ball would fly the way I want it to go. In this one, maybe the stability wasn't the same. Feeling was much better with the Pro Stock, for sure. That's something that I'm 100% sure about. Because like on the volleys, it had this cool feeling, about it.
Yeah, especially on the volleys. I don't know what happened on the volleys, but that felt like rock solid, you just boom. It's like hitting it, the ball was almost like against the wall, like no wobble, no anything. That was awesome. Also, where it also shined in my case was on the returns. How many return inside out forehand winners did I do to you? Like crazy.
Yes, I know. I need to improve my second serve. Don't mention that.
It was crazy, I just, and the ball was flying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Also, guys, don't mind the fact that it's technically the V7 paint job and this is the V8. Okay, it doesn't really matter which blade we compare to this one because it's a different blade. Okay, so
yeah, because
we just took this one because this is the blade that you can currently buy online or whatever.
I mean, many of the pro players that you're gonna see playing with these colors, let's say, are gonna have in their hands, like in reality, it's gonna be this same racket. You know? So it doesn't really matter that right now you're seeing different colors.
Exactly.
Just to make sure.
Now, guys, is there anything else you want to say?
No, I wanted to say that the experience was totally different because at the end of the day, like, yeah, I'm saying it was more balanced or, well, felt more solid because at the end of the day, it's a heavier racket.
Yeah.
So that's why in some stuff it's hard to compare it. It's another racket, that's all. So for example, I mean, of course, we don't have to talk about power because none of these rackets are for power, but I didn't feel like this was like much more powerful or anything, you know? And plus, like, yeah, we were playing in an indoor, so everything was like clean and stuff. So yeah, basically just that.
Yeah, and I would say that honestly, like, you can probably, no, it's not about probably, you can for sure spec a commercial Wilson Blade 1820, just like this one, V8, with lead to your spec to fit you perfectly. That's gonna fit you way better than just some pro stock Wilson Blade H22 from some kind of player. 100% sure.
So, is it worth it buying like the pro stock racket?
Considering that you can make the commercial racket fit you pretty much as good or maybe sometimes even better than a pro stock racket. And considering that a racket like this is going to be around 400 to 600 euros online and really hard to get, to me the answer is pretty obvious.
I mean, I understand why it's more expensive, of course. Like, it's a more, how you say, exclusive racket that has passed through many hands, let's say,
Yeah.
of people like tuning it and stuff like perfectionizing. Perfectionizing that racket. So that's why it's more expensive. So I understand it. It's just that, yeah, you can take a normal racket and for much less money, give it to your local shop now where they can customize it just the way you like it, and you get a better racket for yourself without spending so much money.
Pretty much getting a pro stock racket from a new racket.
Yeah, from a new mold. So yeah, and so yeah, so the comparison is, and when you buy them like the way they are, this is like a new racket with a new mold, maybe with some imperfections, you know, the weight might be more or less than it says or stuff like that, or an old mold racket that is in perfect conditions. That's what you're gonna...
So yeah, if you're not planning to modify anything, this is probably gonna feel better, okay? If you just compare them side by side, this is probably gonna feel better. But if you're thinking of buying a pro stock racket, you can probably think about customizing a normal racket. So yeah, this is completely useless. It's not a racket.
I got scared, honestly. This wasn't planned, that move.
I would throw it out of it.
All right, so yeah, on the so you can just do this. Think of this way, that by buying a new racket, you can flex on your friends that's saying that I have much more modern and new technology racket than those poor players, you know, stuff like that. So just buy for yourself the new model, maybe. That's my opinion, what you should do, guys. You just buy the new model and customize it the way you like, without spending all that money on a
I feel like we've been saying the same thing over and over again in different words. So I think it's a sign that we should say bye-bye.
Yeah, but our highlights are cool, so let's... All right.
Guys, bye-bye.